Hi everyone, welcome to another video on Dynasty, and today I'm going to go through the control setting in this game because some of them could actually make a massive difference to how well you play in the matches. Now, the way you're going to get to this control setting is basically this icon on the top right. So you click on it and it automatically takes you to the setting page, and they're basically the first four tabs which you kind of want to adjust to your own preference. Now, let's just go through them one by one. The first one is going to be this control tab. Enable vibration. This is just your personal preference, doesn't matter. Joystick type, always keep it as fixed. Basically, if you keep it as free, what's going to happen is that you can see this direction pad on the bottom left, right? If I keep it as free, if I click on it, all of a sudden it's now going to move to here. And that could be tricky because a lot of time when you're actually playing in matches, you want to be very much focused on what's going on here rather than trying to figure out exactly where is your controls. So if you actually keep it as fixed, no matter where you tap, what you can see is that it just automatically make you move into that direction. So you don't have to be very precise was where you're clicking, and also there's no mistake where you randomly click on some area and then you messed up your direction key completely. So that's basically why I always recommend keeping it as fixed. Icon path, this is also very important. Always keep it as on. Basically, when you have it on, you can then have a number appearing on the two teammates, and there is also going to be two pass buttons, so you know exactly who you'll be passing to. This is very important because a lot of time there should be one character on your team who is normally going to be the one initiating all the attacks, the ball controller, etc. And you normally want to pass it to him. And also this can help you. For example, if you suddenly see an open space for one of your teammates, you know exactly who to pass to without worrying about being passing to the wrong guy. So that's why it's very important to keep this on. Then the next one, auto defense. This one's a bit tricky. It's going to be up to you. If you're a complete beginner, you can keep it as on. If you are a bit more experienced, you can keep it as off. And ideally, you want to start off just kind of practicing and then eventually get used to it and then go to just turn it off completely. Now, I will talk about the pros and cons for both because there are advantages both ways. Now, if I put it on, basically what auto defense does, by the way, in case you guys don't know, is that if I go into, let's say, defense practice, so what you can see here, right, is that all of the opponent is going to have this green triangle area, which is basically the position where I can then interfere their shots. So if I actually stand in it, the triangle is going to turn red, and basically that means if the enemy actually take a shot now, it will be interfered, and also a lot of time the block position is actually going to be correct when you're actually standing in this kind of position. Now, obviously, the way when you want to do it, when you are defending, you'll be moving your character with the direction pad. So you can see here, I'm moving my direction pad, and then I want to stand in the middle of this triangle. Now, what happens when you actually have auto defense is that if I just press 3, which is the defense button here, it will automatically move my character to the ideal position. So you can see here, right now you can see I'm moving the character, which is why the direction pad is moving. If I just press 3, I'm not moving the direction pad anymore. You can see there's no movement on my direction pad. The character just automatically moved it. And it's going to be the same thing if the enemy going to move. It will just automatically follow the enemy. So for example here, the enemy is going to use this skill. If I just press 3, you will see I directly move towards him, and as the enemy opponent move away, I'm gonna follow him perfectly. And this is basically what auto defense is, and that's basically it's gonna make your life a lot easier if you're a complete beginner, because now you don't have to worry about how to position your character correctly, and you can also help with a lot of your block timing, because a lot of times sometimes when you are missing your block, it's not just down to the timing, it could also be because your position is incorrect. And this basically, if you just hold this button, it can help you actually adjust your position perfectly so that you always be able to block in the right position, and then you only have to worry about your timing. So that's kind of why auto defense is definitely helpful if you are a beginner. However, the same with this is that if you do use this auto defense, what's going to happen is that your movement is going to be very predictable, because if I hold this, I will be moving directly towards this opponent, and that makes it a lot easier to predict your own movement. And as a result, what's going to happen is that for example, if the enemies want to set up a screen for their teammate, they know exactly where you will be going, because you will be just literally moving alongside with whoever you're marking, and as a result, they can place a screen very easy to block you. So that's kind of why ideally you want to turn this off eventually, but at a beginner stage you can definitely use this if you're not so good at defense and blocking timing. blocking position, etc. So that's going to be my take on this. You can switch it up as on for the time being, but eventually try to make it off if possible. And when you switch it on, by the way, you want to do the matchup because that's normally the one you want, the character you want to follow. But yeah, eventually you do want to switch that to off. Control setting, this is basically how you want to, you can move around of your controls. So however big is your phone or your iPad, etc., your fingers are going to be in the right position to actually reach off the buttons. The other thing you can also do if you actually play on emulator, what you can actually do is you can make the icons a lot smaller. And the reason why you want to do this is that what you can do is that you can create the maximum amount of space on the field for you to actually take a look at all of the characters. Because if you are not actually playing on your phone, what's going to happen is that you don't actually need to click on the button. Instead, you'll be clicking on the keyboard. So as long as you know which keyboard button represent which kind of the on-screen button, the icons can be as small as they want, right? It doesn't really matter. Ultimate is probably the only one you want to be at normal size, just so you can see whether your ultimate's full or not. But that's basically, creating the maximum amount of space on the field for you to see exactly what's going on. So if you are playing on emulator, this is potentially something you can do. I normally play on my phone, so that's kind of why I'm not going to bother here. I'm not going to save this. But yeah, that's basically what you can do if you do happen to play on your keyboard, on your laptop, on your computer, etc. Skill auto parsing. Once again, up to you. If you're a beginner, I will probably say keep it on. If you actually know what's going on, then you can keep it off eventually. But basically what skill auto parsing does is that, for example, if I have a certain character, what you normally see is that the character have different range when they actually want to do the attack. So for example, if I do this diving dunk, if I actually press it, you can see this green range is actually the range where I want to be. So if I actually be somewhere here, let me check whether I have the auto pass on. So I have the auto pass on right now. So what that basically means is that if I click on this, I'm not in the range, the character would automatically move towards that range so that I can still perform this dunk correctly. However, if I actually keep it off, what's going to happen is that you can see this green range. I am trying to, I need the ball first. No mind. I am trying to do my dunk. I'm not in the range. So if I press it, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to automatically try to move me into that range. Now, obviously, this is going to be helpful for beginners so that you know exactly when you actually want to use a move, you are always able to execute it, even if you are slightly off the range. However, once again, if you're actually an advanced player, you should really know the range of your attacks. And also at the same time, if you actually keep this on, sometimes it's quite predictable which direction you'll be going when you're starting off certain moves, etc. So once again, for beginners, you can keep it on for the time being, but eventually try to practice enough so that you can turn it off. Okay. Pump fake upon catch. This is exactly what this says. So you can do a pump fake when you do the catch and shoot. Always keep this on. This basically just adds one extra attack pattern for you, so it's always going to be useful. Joystick orientation, always keep it as absolute. And the reason why you want to do this is that if you do it relative to the rim, what's going to happen is that, for example, if I'm standing here, it doesn't matter. I'm facing directly into the rim. So if I press left, I'm going left. If I press right, I'm going to right. However, what's going to happen, very annoying when you are going to be, for example, on the baselines, etc., is that now if you're actually relative to the rim, if you actually want to go right, it's not pressing down. You actually have to press right. So basically, depending on, I guess it's a kind of depending on your own personal preference. But for me, a lot of time it's just much easier for my right to actually be going right rather than relative to this rim. So if I actually want to go right, I don't have to go down, etc. So that's basically kind of the minor nuance. But if you are, if for some reason you actually have perfect coordination, like geometrically, no matter what position you are, you always know the right direction to move, then you can do whatever you want. But personally, I feel like absolute just make more sense for vast majority of players. So that's basically everything on the control page. Camera doesn't really matter that much. This you can pick whichever you are more comfortable with. I know I pick top down. It kind of gives me a good balance of the whole court. Ultimate close up, I'll always turn it off because sometimes if you actually want to block the enemy ultimates, etc., you don't really want to close out. You kind of mess up your block timing, animation, etc. Layup, dunk, zoom, similar kind of thing. You can turn it off if it helps you to actually kind of block out, to do your blocks correctly at the right timing. Long range, loose ball, always keep it on so that if you do actually have a loose ball, you know which direction you're chasing. I mean, that's kind of quite obvious. So that's everything on the camera setting. Interface setting, this you can do whatever you want. You can keep it on or off, doesn't matter too much. Opponent pass core bubble, once again, doesn't matter too much. Basically, if you have this on, when one of the opponents try to do a catch and shoot skill, where it's going to pop out is saying pass on top of them. It could be helpful, but sometimes it could also be a distraction. So up to you on whether you want to do this or not. Emote obviously doesn't matter. Player info. I normally want to suggest you want to put player name because nickname literally means nothing. Whereas player name, at least you know who you are guarding. And a lot of time, to be honest, a lot of characters in this game look identical, especially when you have all of your costumes, etc. So you want to have the player name so you know exactly who you are following, what are the skills they are capable of, etc. So always keep this on player name. Same thing for player info, just so that you are actually able to see all of the players' name. Otherwise, if you have this off, you will only see the player who holds the ball. But if you actually have it on, you can see all three of the opponent, and therefore you could know, okay, maybe this guy, even though he's not holding the ball, he has a very dangerous, catch and shoot skill, and therefore you still want to keep an eye out on them as well. So that's kind of why I recommend keeping this on. Player action prompt. I don't think this matters that much, but basically it could prompt certain things. For example, if you're dribbling for the ball for too long, it makes it easier for you to be stopped or for the ball to get stolen. So I definitely think there's no harm of keeping it on. Contest area display. This one's going to be up to you. You either want to go man-to-man or handler, and basically the way you're going to do it is that it's going to show up this area, so that green triangle I talked about earlier, that's the contest area. So if you're actually in that green area, then you'll be able to actually interfere the enemy shots, etc. Now, if you have it on man-to-man, then it will always be whoever you are facing. Whereas if you have it on the handler, then this green icon will only be appearing on whoever is holding the ball. Now, there are pros and cons for both. Normally, what I definitely want to suggest you to do is do this contest layup area first. Now, the reason why I want to do this is it gives you two benefits. The first benefit is that if you actually stand in that red, so basically it gives you two triangles now with two cones instead. So there's the green cone, the bigger green cone, and there's also the smaller red cone. And basically what this is helpful is that if you actually stand in the red cone, so very close to the opponent won't be able to actually do layup very successfully. So you'll be contesting their layup, and that could actually mess up a lot of their fancy, ball moves, etc. So that's why you always keep on. And the other advantage of this is that if you actually have this, for example, on handler, what's going to happen is that the red cone is going to be appearing on whoever you're marking. However, the green cone is then going to be appearing at whoever is actually holding the ball. And therefore, you are kind of getting the best of the two worlds if you're actually putting on handler and also have this contested area on. So basically, this way you can both see, okay, exactly who is the guy you are supposed to be marking man-to-man, and also whoever has the ball, so that you know where do you need to go in order to contest their shots. So this is probably the most ideal situation you want to do it. Sometimes, however, I actually find it easier to do a man-to-man purely because it's sometimes, just for me, it's quite distracting to have like two cones all happens at the same time. Maybe it's just my own preference from playing other basketball games in the past. But for me, sometimes it's just a bit distracting to have two cones all appearing at once. And sometimes I actually lose track of who am I marking because they both have like this interference area in front of them. So this is going to be down to your personal preference. But if you are completely new to the game and you're starting from fresh, it might be the most optimal setting in my opinion, is going to be handler plus this on, so that you are able to show the area for both teammates, both the guy who's holding the ball as well as the one you're marking. But if you can't get rid of your old habits like me, then man-to-man is also okay. It's going to be up to you, okay? Opponent grade out, always keep this on. Once again, the characters in this game look too similar to each other, and you want the opponent to be grayed out so you know exactly who's your teammate, who's not, right? It's very simple. This outline, once again, just making it very obvious who's your teammate, who's your opponent. So I always keep it on the whole team, and same thing here. I have it on everyone. Now, what's this outline with? Personal preference, whether you want it to be a thin outline or a thick outline, doesn't matter. And then the last two doesn't really matter too much either. Oh, in-game button, I normally want to keep it as default, transparent sometimes can be a bit distracting, especially when different players have their own costume and then just kind of moving across the screen. And then if you actually have a transparent button, sometimes you may not actually be able to see it very clearly. So I normally keep this as default. Okay. For court, I always keep it simple because I don't want too many things distracting me. And then for the distance lines, always keep it on because a lot of the attacks for a different character may only be available during different range. So for example, this one, if I try to do a diving dunk, I can only do it between 3 to 5 meters. So having this is going to help a lot when you want to memorize the range. You can do different attacks. It also kind of helps for certain contests. For defensive purposes as well, because it just kind of gives you more reference line. So you can see one line at 2 meter, one line for 3 meter, one line 4 meter. So you know what your opponent is capable of doing at each one of those ranges as well, so you can act accordingly. So that's basically what I would recommend for this. And like I said, spectate and others doesn't really matter too much. So yeah, so this is going to be my personal recommendation on how you want to set up the game to improve your actual gameplay.